What's up, Camp Fam? Welcome to another episode of the Cretaceous Campcast. I am Cretaceous Dave, and that sounded really weird when I said it, so I'll probably not say Camp Fam anymore. But I've got finally a fun episode. Maybe. I don't know. Depends on what you think. Do not have any additional news or announcements or anything like that to start off this episode because I'm recording it shortly after the last one because, like I mentioned, I'm going to be away and I don't know when I'm going to have the opportunity to record more. So I'm going to record one or two just in case, and we'll see what happens. So after the first few episodes being more kind of, what do you think about this, or different types of places my brain was going, I thought we would start back at the beginning and just have a fun little topic. And if I keep looking down, it's because I actually have some kind of notes today because I don't want to leave anything out. But today I'm going to discuss the dinosaurs of season 1. Not just dinosaurs. There's, a prehistoric marine reptile and a pterosaur in there. For the sake of conversation, we're just going to call them all dinosaurs. Anyway, all right, let's get started. I'm going to go over each one and kind of just give my thoughts on them a little bit, and let's see where this conversation goes. All right. Okay, so I'll start with the small one and the easiest one to cover because it's everywhere, all over the Jurassic franchise. Even Camp Cretaceous Season 4, it's the nuisance on the boat that I think let a lot of us down, and it died one of the most unnecessary deaths in the entirety of the franchise, and that is the Compy. Compies being compies, I thought they were, fine. In Camp Cretaceous Season 1, it was a cool introduction to dinosaurs in the show. There's rustling in the leaves, and the kids don't know what's going on, and, little Compy jumps out, and excited as everyone else is, Kenji's like, they caught it in a blanket and put it in a cat carrier, How scary is that? Which is true. One at a time. Yeah, maybe not. We have seen in the Lost World what they can do if you have a lot more than one and you're not prepared. And as the series goes on, we see a lot of different behavior and stuff with the compies, and even Darius, making notes in his field guide and whatnot. But I thought it was really cool to have a compy be the very first thing we see in Jurassic World. And if my memory is correct, a compy is the first dinosaur we're introduced to in the Jurassic Park novel. I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I listened to it. But I think I remember the baby scene, which no way that was making it into the film the way the film was rated and made. But I think the compy was the first thing we were introduced to. Could be wrong. Please feel free to correct me if I am. But like I said, it was a cool little first introduction. And of course, as I mentioned, they were spread all throughout the 4 seasons and are involved in no super significant plots other than the compass in season 3. But in season 1, they're just kind of there, and it's the introduction of dinosaurs. But it was still really cool. I liked seeing it. And just Darius's excitement for, it's a dinosaur. He didn't care what it was. It was just a dinosaur. It was so cool. All right. I talked about the compy enough. It's no extensive purpose or plot in season 1 that I can remember. We usually stop somewhere around episode 4, so I don't know. If there is, sorry, I can come back and add more to this later. And I don't have them in any kind of order on my list. I was just going through listing all of the dinosaurs I remembered in the season. So some of them are kind of alphabetic, some of them are in order of appearance. They're just all over the place. Yeah, sorry. Next, we got the Raptor Squad. Not a very, very big scene. And as we know after season 1, Blue is the only one left, and then we get little bits and pieces of her through season 2 and then more in season 3. And I talked about that in the episode where I talked about Blue, being perceived as a good and nice dinosaur in the eyes of the kids based on the writing of the show and whatnot. So I thought it was really cool to show the velociraptors in the raptor paddock, even if it was just for a couple of seconds. It was a really nice introduction where if kids never watched the Jurassic World movie, they finally get to see them. I wish we had a little bit more, story, them mention anything, name drop Owen, because they did, name drop Claire in the season. That would have been cool, but it was fun to see the almost mirroring of when the paddock worker fell into the paddock in the movie, and the way the raptors were all, I don't even know how to do it and get the sound to come across through in an audio podcast, but they were crouched down and kind of stalking and going after. Very, very similar to that scene in the film. And the kids were in legitimate danger. If Dave and Roxy didn't show up, throwing meat into the paddock, yeah, those kids would have been eaten, and it would have been a much different show. But it was brief, but it was really cool, and it got kids introduced, because if kids started watching the show and their parents said, hey, maybe you want to watch the movie that's happening, because parents were watching it with the show, it probably clicked for them. If they didn't know anything about it and just saw, oh, here's a Jurassic World cartoon, let the kid watch, and then they realized, whoa, this is happening the same time as the movie. That was so cool. So maybe then they introduced, and then the kids had an idea of who the raptors were, and then they learned more about them watching the film, and then probably got really sad when they found out they're all dead other than Blue. But it was cool. I loved seeing that. When I saw where the show was going, I was really hoping we would get to see them, and it was great that we did. Again, would have liked to seen a little more, but you take what you can get, especially considering the story they were working with, the time events were happening. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to see a lot of the raptors. So, we got them for a couple seconds, and that was that. All right, I'm going to move on down my list, and Ankylosaurus. And specifically, Bumpy. I thought it was incredibly cute. I thought it was perfect for a kid's series to have. I don't want to call it a mascot, but that's basically what she is for the series. She's kind of the mascot of the series. She shows up on merchandise and everything else. If you think of a dinosaur in Camp Cretaceous, you think of Bumpy. Having her different and imperfect, in Woo's words, not ours, we all love her, was a really nice touch. I thought it was interesting, and it's, to me anyway, and maybe this is just me as a parent trying to find good and teaching moments in everything I see when I watch with my son, I think it was a nice little way of saying everything is okay. Everybody is lovable. Just because someone looks a little bit different doesn't mean they're less of something. And the small interaction between Woo and Ben kind of went there, where Woo was like, what? Imperfect? No, can't be. He was just so offended that something he made could come out imperfect. And Ben was like, no, she is perfect. Look at her. The imprinting on Ben was a nice callback to Jurassic Park, where Hammond says he wants to be there when everyone hatches, so they imprint on him. And for those unaware that think this is a made-up Jurassic thing, no, imprinting is very real in a lot of animals. And to go to the other extent, there are certain types of birds where humans cannot touch them when they are hatchlings. Otherwise, the parents are just gonna be like, nope, nothing to do with you now. So the imprinting thing was cool, and this is getting slightly off topic. If it's more of a bumpy thing now, but it's also a behavioral thing. And since I'm talking about Ankylosaurus, why not? It was wonderful to see Bumpy grow a little bit through the season, and we can attribute that to the rapid growth hormone or accelerated growth hormone that Wu used, because we see her a little bit bigger, later on. And what we find out is that's the seed. Moments before that, the Indominus was through there, and where the Scorpius couldn't figure out how to attack an Ankylosaurus, the Indominus decided, I can just flip this thing over and there's no more armor, and that's how it killed the adult Ankylosaurus. And after watching Camp Cretaceous, we're like, Bumpy was right there. She was hiding, or maybe the adults pushed her away. We don't know. It was really cool to see. But the human dinosaur bond that Bumpy and Ben make throughout Bumpy's growth and development, especially with the imprinting, shows a lot about real animal-human connection and relationship and behavior. And it's not just like an Owen Blue thing. It's not just, it has to be an animal specifically bred to be super intelligent and trainable. It's an animal being an animal. And anyone that has pets, anyone's been around people with pets where their owners have strong connections with them or treat them like family and not just something that's sitting in the corner, you'll see that. A lot of animals have that. You'll see videos online all the time where if a soldier has gone away to war, when he comes home or she comes home after a few years, the dog is like wagging his tail like crazy and jumping all over the person when they get back. They remember, they miss. We get a lot with our dogs. We can see things like that. And it's not just dogs, it's other animals. And a lot of birds are super intelligent. And, birds are dinosaurs. So it was great to see that relationship portrayed that way, particularly in an animal where a lot would think it's not necessarily intelligent based on skull size and probable brain size and whatnot. So I thought it was great. People may not like it. People may think the writing was specifically to make Bumpy be this tag team partner for Ben, the kid's pet throughout the series, which sure, it's probably the case for selling some merch and some toys and whatnot. But it was a really nice behavioral portrayal of something not a raptor. And I thought that was really, really cool. And, we see other Ankylosaurs later. Just talking about season 1, and for the purpose of this, I'm focusing on Bumpy when it comes to the Ankylosaurus. And, she was basically this series' Grogu. If you don't know who Grogu is, if you're not a Star Wars Mandalorian fan, that everybody else refers to as Baby Yoda. And it's true, that's basically what Bumpy is, and I'm okay with it. And I grew to love Bumpy even more as the seasons went on. But we're just talking about the animals of season 1 here. Next on my list, the Brachiosaurus. And once again, we get a Jurassic Park callback when Darius does the Brachiosaurus call when they're up on the elevation tower, when they hear the big noise and like, what is that? And they go out to look. So that's pretty much a callback to Grant and the kids in the tree. And a very unfortunate callback, similar to the Doc in Fallen Kingdom. We see an Indominus Rex just slay that same Brachiosaurus. And that was tough. Watching a dinosaur die like that. We don't see the gruesomeness and brutality of it. As an adult, we know exactly what happened in that scene. The kids know what happened in that scene. Now, for the kids watching, depending on their age and how they understand things, maybe they didn't quite get it. Like, oh, did it fall down? What happened? And depending on how, as you know, as an adult, a caregiver, an older sibling, whatever, depends on if you wanted to explain what happened or not to that Brachiosaurus. I know there are a number of people out there that really aren't cool with the way Brachiosaurus get treated in this franchise. But it was one of the first, kind of shocking scenes, with a lot more over the next several seasons. And we get more Brachiosaur stories, like, we get the baby in season 3, and then we get Firecracker season 4, which is cool. But the big Brachiosaurus moment in season 1 is, Darius doing the woo call and then watching it get killed by the Indominus Rex. And timeline-wise, when this is happening, we already know, since we saw the movie 5 years prior. But if we get back and stick our brains in a time machine, we didn't know that it was just killing for the sake of killing. And then, we find out later on. But that was cool in a couple of ways that I liked the way they handled that. And I think we see a Brachiosaurus when they're on the zip line, if I remember. But I'm really glad they introduced the Brachiosaurus. I wish they also did the Apatosaurus, but I get it. For animation costs, you're not going to do 2 of a similar thing. Kids aren't really going to care when they're watching the show. But the Apatosaurus, in my opinion, was more important to that timeline of when the show is happening. But I get it, for animation and budget and other reasons. They went with the Brachiosaurus, which is fine. And we can talk more about the Brachiosauruses when we get to a different season dinosaur breakdown. All right, moving on. Next, we get to Toro. And depending on who you are, Toro might be the best dinosaur in season 1. Other people might think the Indominus. But with the Indominus already being known, already knowing the full story, I think Toro was a really awesome addition to the series. We did not see a Carnotaurus in Jurassic World. We did in Fallen Kingdom, so we knew they were there. So I thought adding in Toro was really cool. Now, Toro was released as a toy before the show aired. I specifically remember that because my wife came home from Target with a Carnotaurus Toro toy, and it had the name Toro on the box with a picture of Darius in the corner in the packaging. And maybe marketing material, showed it. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in any of my previous videos. We didn't watch the trailer for it or, see any of the artwork or concept art or anything like that. Just looked up that, hey, this series is starting on Netflix on this day. And then we watched it. So it was really cool. And my son loved it. He loved Toro from the start. He's a huge fan of carnivores. But he didn't really, he liked the toy when he had it because it looked cool and it looked different. But then as soon as he was able to just put it into perspective and put something visual to it, he just, boom, then he just wanted to play with it and he needed it and he loved it. And I loved how aggressive it was, or, how did Kenji describe it? Aggro. It was really cool. And the whole little plot point of the Indominus walking up to the cage and then just busting him out. I would love to see what happened there. Did they have any kind of little skirmish or fight at all, and then they both just realized this isn't worth it? Or was the Indominus that big of a jerk that's like, you know what? You look like you can wreak some havoc with me. Let's do this, sister. And just knocked over the fence and walked away. Or maybe it was a case, it was in the process of damaging the fence and they were going to fight. And then, the helicopter came, somebody else came, it heard something else, it ran somewhere. We don't know. I would love to see that. It's probably literally a 5 to 15 minute little thing they could make to show us what happened, and it would be cool. finding out how Toro gets the scratch. That was really cool because the toy had a scratch. And she's like, oh, okay, is this a red stripe? Is it blood? We don't know. Showing that was really cool. Kind of like, Anakin getting a scar in between Star Wars episodes 2 and 3, which was shown in the original Clone Wars. It was just one of those cool little things. I know Toro getting it isn't, anything as significant like that. And that wasn't even really a significant plot point, but it was just cool to see. I liked Toro being a pain in the butt basically the entire rest of the season. Anytime the kids needed to do something or get somewhere, there she was in the way. She falls a lot. It's almost comical at times with how much she falls over. But it's cool, and of course it's written in to save the kids for the most part. But she was a really, really fun addition. She was a great, I don't want to use the word villain, but for a lack of a better way of putting it in, the bad guy dinosaur chasing the kids throughout the season. That the kids were in danger, but never really to the point we thought they were really gonna get eaten by her. At least that was my takeaway. It was really well handled, and I'm glad they brought her back in season 2, even if it was for an episode. But it was great, and even seeing her get charred at the end of the season, that sounds mean saying it that way, but seeing the whole conflict and kind of rivalry develop, and then her story in season 2 is really, really cool, which when we get to anything season 2 related, we'll definitely go over that. But yeah, Toro was a great addition. I loved seeing her. She was a lot of fun, and it introduced kids to the Carnotaurus, and in a way where, let's be honest, in Fallen Kingdom, it's there. It looks like it's a threat to Owen, and Rexy comes and just grabs it by the throat and slams it to the ground. It didn't really do much. We do get one, at the end of the movie and playing tug of war, which is fun. But she didn't really get a lot of time to shine. So having her as the primary baddie, I do think she saw more screen time than the Indominus in season 1. I could be wrong, but that was really nice to see. Great that they focused on a different dinosaur, which is something I really, really enjoyed. All right, it's a good segue into my list. I'll just go down the Indominus Rex. So glad they added the Indominus Rex to the series. Obviously, based on when it was taking place, it was a given, and it was even in the official poster, I think. But what I'm really happy with is they didn't really tone down how the animal behaved. It was a creature on a mission. It was just killing for the sake of killing. It ate humans. It killed dinosaurs. It did exactly what it did in the movie. A lot of it was off camera, which is fine. This is a show targeted for kids. But when we're first introduced to it, it takes down a Brachiosaurus, and then it goes and eats those guys. And the kids are just shocked. We get, a lot more references to a lot of other people being eaten. The kids were definitely in danger of being eaten a few times. And it was awesome. I loved that they did it. I loved the level they put the scariness into it while not making it scary enough to probably really frighten most kids. My son this came out, 2020? So he was 3? Yeah, he was 3 when it came out. He just turned 3 because he turned 3 at the end of August. The show came out in September, so he just turned 3. He wasn't scared at all. His honest to goodness first words were, "I want a toy of that." I'm probably paraphrasing at this point, but that's honestly the very first thing he said. He thought it was awesome. And I was honestly worried that he might think this thing was scary. It's the 3 hybrids are his favorite dinosaurs. he knows they're not real. So if someone asks him, his favorite dinosaur, he will tell them, depending on the day, it's either a Spinosaurus or a T-Rex. He flip-flops back and forth. But his favorite Jurassic dinosaur, I think first is Scorpius, then Indominus, then Indoraptor. But sometimes Indominus is first, and that'll usually leapfrog the Scorpius if he's watching season 1 of Camp Cretaceous. Then if he goes back and watches season 3, it's the Scorpius. Whichever season is fresh in his head is number 1, and Indoraptor's always number 3. He didn't even like the Indoraptor for a very long time, but now he does. But the Indominus was, like I said, it was portrayed in a great way for a kid's show. And to me, all of the scenes with it were fantastic, tying into Jurassic World and to kind of give us a perspective of physically where we are on the island and timeline-wise where we are in the story. And it was so cool. We got, to explore other parts to figure out what was happening during scenes where we don't see the Indominus in the film. And I thought animation-wise, the Indominus was great. It was, before the Scorpius, probably my favorite overall movement and behavior of any of the dinosaurs that we saw in the series. It was really well done. I thought they captured everything great about the Indominus. From the look of it, the movement of it, the way it acted, the sounds. It was fantastic. That's all I have to say about that, because we know everything there is about the Indominus. I just wanted to touch on that. I thought they did a really great job with it in the show, with the balance of terrifying and not too scary at the same time. All right, moving on. First non-dinosaur, the Mosasaurus. Yeah, it was all right. It was a good introduction. We obviously knew it was there, and I don't think the seed was all that necessary with them, leaving the tunnel, ending up in the Mosasaurus lagoon, and then trying to get through. I get it. It may have been to, let kids know, again, if they haven't watched the movie, like, hey, this thing is there, and then go watch our movie and you see it jump up and eat a shark. But, I never really felt the kids were in real danger. And I don't think my son did either, because there were parts watching it where he'd be like nervous, or he'd be grabbing me when they're running from dinosaurs, and particularly Toro. And even when there was the chance Yaz might get eaten, I don't think he ever really felt like, okay, she's going to be in trouble. It looked really good. It's great that they did include it, especially because it's, the later parts of Jurassic World where, it eats Zara and, Pteranodon, and then later taking down the Indominus. It kind of builds up to that, and it was okay. I was glad to see it. We get a lot of Mosasaurus jokes in season 2. Ben is big on feeding people to the Mosasaurus, and we also learned that's what happened to the Indominus. The kids see the Indominus down there, which is really cool that they see the actual Indominus body, because the next time we're introduced to it 6 months later and it's just bones. So that was really cool. Not going to talk a lot about it. For me, it didn't do all that much. It was there. It was cool to show it. It's a way to get kids interested, a way to get kids to buy the toy. But yeah, it was just kind of meh for me. Sorry if you really liked it. I just didn't do much for me. All right, next on my list, the Parasaurolophus. Always a good addition to any season of the show or film. It's such a beautiful animal. I really love the way they look, the way they sound in the series. Their movements, their behaviors. But what was super cool in Camp Cretaceous Season 1 was seeing the bioluminescent ones in the cave. And I know that's something that's kind of been in the background and hinted at in other types of things. I think, was there something, the background in a lab or some early marketing material or something that had like the hint of bioluminescence in it? The Lego Jurassic World series, especially the one with the hybrids, the Indominus Escape, one of the like crazy experiments Wu was doing was bioluminescence. When Owen finds all of the different kind of raptors and experimental dinosaurs, you see a bioluminescent raptor run through. But I thought they were beautiful. It was great to see, and then watching them be these calm, tranquil herbivores just hanging out in the water. And that was really cool to see too, because a lot of books and other things portray them as just, sorry if I just looked that way, a squirrel just ran past my window. You see them hanging out in water, eating water weeds and stuff like that, being duck-billed dinosaurs, and they looked beautiful. They look great. Not a huge fan of how the toy ended up looking. Didn't like the paint job to kind of give off that vibe. I mean, I get it. There wasn't much you could do unless you stuck some neon glow-in-the-dark stuff on it. The mini looked a little bit better because it kind of had that see-through-y, greenish, clearish color with the blue stripe, I think it was. I don't remember. That looked better. The Snap Squad changed color underwater. That was kind of neat. So not a huge fan of the Mattel toy for it, but loved them. Loved the way they looked in the show. And then, of course, they were brought back in season 3. And, I know I'm focusing on season 1, but while I'm on that, just like Wu's reaction to seeing them, was just awesome. That he probably made them, had somebody stick them in a cave and forgot all about them. And then he just, watched them. It's like, whoa. It was that was great. So loved the Parasaurolophus. And like I said, the change in behavior inside the cave, that was really cool to see. Once they started realizing, like, dude, the Mosasaurus is that way. No, we gotta get out of here. That was really, really cool. All right, next one, Sinoceratops. And with this, it's kind of going to piggyback off some of the stuff I said with the Brachiosaurus. In the fact that I understand why Triceratops wasn't in the show. If you're going to use Sinoceratops, you're not also going to use Triceratops. It's an animation thing. It's a cost and budget thing. I get it. And I think having the Sinoceratops instead of the Triceratops was honestly a better choice, because it introduces kids to a different dinosaur. Every kid, even if they're not into dinosaurs, probably knows what a Triceratops is. It's one of like 3 dinosaurs that are on every piece of clothes or lunchbox or toy or whatever. So introducing a Sinoceratops, I thought was really, really nice. Having Sammy kind of, explain that, they're just big cows, or I think it may have been Darius, and Sammy being able to be the one to help, get them moving and stuff like that. It was great to see them put it in a perspective of something kids could understand, how, these are just big, gentle creatures. They don't have to be gentle. We see that they end up not being gentle. And from what we've seen at Battle of Big Rock and the Dominion trailer, the Sinoceratops definitely isn't always gentle. That thing just, running and smashing into a car. Which, with the Triceratops and the Stegosaurus and the Sinoceratops, we've seen that through, the films and the show for, different reasons, and justifiable. Even cows are going to get angry if they have a reason or a reason to panic. I really love the way they handled it. The Sammy taking the sample and then giving it to the drone was interesting. And, we didn't really know where they were going with it at the time. Just that, okay, she's secretly working for this company we've never heard of before, and she sent them a sample. So, okay. what? And then, in season 4, we finally find out what, and it's one of the stinking cutest things ever to show up on screen. Sorry, Bumpy. But it was kind of a plot point that almost seemed forgotten until season 4. And I think not exploring that at all really kind of made that moment hit a little harder, especially seeing Sammy's reaction about, oh my gosh, I did this. This is because of me. But again, I'm getting off topic. We're not talking season 4. We're talking the dinosaurs of season 1. But Sinoceratops was really cool. I loved the colors. I loved the way it looked. I loved the behavior. And it was really good to, like I said, have that instead of the Triceratops. And I think it ties in better with both Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom. If they were going to pick, one big ceratopsian, be the Sinoceratops. It kind of, fit the purpose of what they needed and also gave kids the introduction to a dinosaur they're unfamiliar with. And again, especially if they haven't seen the films. If this was their first introduction to Jurassic, I think it was an excellent, excellent choice. And then that takes us to Pteranodon. We see, I'm trying to remember, I don't know if we visibly see Dimorphodon flying out of the aviary. I don't think we do. I think season 2, it's season 3 that we first see the Dimorphodon for real. I'm not sure if we, briefly see what looks like one in the far off, flying off when, the aviary. I don't know why I can't say that word today. Aviary opens up. But I don't think we do. I think it's just Pteranodon. And they definitely served a big plot point in season 1. They, we saw them escape. It was awesome to see that scene. And although it's not mentioned, I don't think you can tell, at least Kenji recognizes that, oh no, Masrani was just killed. So that was kind of a nice thing. It's not nice that Masrani died. I'm terrible at phrasing things today. It was nice to see them add that bit of important plot into the show. And I loved seeing it from a different perspective, and they were kind of close to where all that action was happening. So that was really cool to see too. We know exactly where we are in the movie, physically and timeline wise. So that was really neat. So we see them escape. We see them, flying, and they're not all that much of a threat at this point. And it's not until it's nighttime and the kids are on the monorail. And for the most part, they're just being complete pains to the kids, and the kids are doing everything possible to turn off all the lights. Thanks to Darius's knowledge of everything, he's able to come up with a plan. And as soon as they think they're okay, Ben gets taken, and that was hard to watch. You as an adult watching with a kid, you don't necessarily think for any second that they're killing one of these kids. And then, after you see what happened, that, first there was the scare where, you thought he was going to, and then you thought, okay, he's going to be okay. And then when it really happens, like, I was honestly thinking, they did that. Like, how are they going to explain this to a group of children watching this show? Are they going to leave it to us to explain to our kids, what had happened? And then at the very, very, very end, we see him twitch a little bit, and we see Bumpy, and it's all good. It lets us know, like, hey, he's okay. He's still alive, maybe, barely. Which was to be expected. We didn't really think they were going to kill a kid in this show. I don't think any of us thought they were really going to kill a kid in the show. I think we later, come to find out they're not allowed to. I think that may be the wrong wording. But I'm fairly certain I read somewhere or listened to an interview where, they can't kill the kids, which makes sense for a kid's show. But it was scary, and my perspective of it is it makes the Pteranodons the scariest of the animals we saw in the show, because from our eyes and the kids' eyes, it took a kid. Like, we never see him again. And it goes episodes into the next season before we see him again. And all of the other campers just assume he's dead. And people, make comments, and they get sad, and they think about him, and get sad. And Kenji's wearing his fanny pack, his dork pouch, as he calls it. It's the Pteranodons aren't in the season a lot, but in the little bit they're in, they play a huge role in the story. Because, you have the story of Ben getting taken, but what happens to Ben after that, I think, is one of the biggest and most important parts of the entire show. And without him getting taken by the Pteranodon, we probably never see that growth and development of Ben, because he's not going to have the independence, and he's not necessarily going to overcome his fears and become, the person he becomes in that time away from everybody else. And especially that time where he's by himself after Bumpy leaves, if he never gets taken by the Pteranodons, if he never falls off that monorail, he may just hide behind the other 5 the entire time. And I'm not saying the kids enable, his fears and his behavior, but they understand who he is. And kids, that age are just going to, go with the flow and be like, hey, just keep up, don't get us killed, kind of thing. I think the season 1 Pteranodons are one of the most significant pterosaur, scenes and creatures in the entire series. It's, weird to think about. Maybe a lot of you don't feel the same way. Maybe you never even thought of it like that. But for minimal screen time, they may have had the biggest impact on character development. At least so far. All of the big carnivores had a major impact on Yaz, as we find out in season 4. But I think, the Pteranodons taking Ben is a huge game changer for the entire rest of the series, because without Ben's transformation, not only is he a very, very different person, but a lot of the other, events of the following seasons may not play out the way they do. It's awesome to think about, and we can definitely talk more about that if we go into Ben, because Ben is so fascinating as a character, especially as I don't remember specifically if he's 13 or if he's 14. He's somewhere around there, but someone that age, and I get it. All the kids act a little older than they really are, or they're supposed to be. It makes sense from a writing perspective, but Ben's a story in and of itself. So we'll definitely talk about him some other time. But like I said, the Pteranodons were an interesting one and a cool one. And honestly, I appreciate what the Pteranodons bring to the entire series more after watching 4 seasons, particularly those monorail Pteranodons. They've got some really cool scenes in following seasons, but after seeing everything happen over the next 6 months in the show, it makes that monorail scene, feel different. It makes it more important. It makes me appreciate it a lot more, and like I said, I'm not sure if you guys feel the same way. I doubt kids pick up on that. It's flying dinosaurs, and most of them probably call them pterodactyls, attacking the train. Cool. That's it's probably what it is for most kids. But it was cool for the importance of everything going forward. At the time, I was like, this sucks, because they just took a kid and killed him. It was, that's kind of how I was feeling. And, and I know it's a Jurassic Park and Jurassic World thing, making the Pteranodon seem like super aggressive towards people, and they have teeth and, there's stuff like that. I get that. It's continuity in the franchise as a whole. But after learning a lot more about, Pteranodons and stuff with my son, that kind of bothered me, just, the way they were towards people. But I got that out of my head really quick, realizing that's just what they are in the Jurassic franchise, and I'm fine with it. I think that was the last. I'm gonna go down my list, and if I missed any, I'll bring them up. Let's see: Ankylosaurus, Brachiosaurus, Carnotaurus, Compys, Indominus, Mosasaurus, Parasaurolophus, Raptor, Sinoceratops, Pteranodon. All right, I went down my whole list. If I missed anything from season 1, leave a comment. That's my fingers off screen. Leave a comment down below on YouTube. If you're listening to the audio podcast, go to YouTube, leave me a comment, or find me on Twitter, personal Twitter at Cretaceous_Dave, or the podcast/brand Twitter at Media Cretaceous. If you don't know where to find us on YouTube, it's not at, because I don't think there's an at. It's Cretaceous Media is where you can find us, and you can find the video version of all the podcast episodes, as well as my 12 Days of Camp Cretaceous from back in December, and a couple of not necessarily Camp Cretaceous related videos, but some things about myself and my journey over the last year and 2 years. If you haven't had a chance to check those out, and if you have a lot of time to kill to want to learn a little bit more about me, go check them out. To everybody that does comment or talk to me personally about those things, thank you. I appreciate you. I love your kind words. And you all are the reason I keep on doing this. I love it. It's great. And I'm not going to go into that, because this was an episode just about the dinosaurs and other extinct prehistoric animals in season 1 of Camp Cretaceous. I hope you guys thought this was a fun idea for an episode. If you want me to break down the other seasons, definitely going to do it. Actually, even if you don't want me to do it, I'm probably going to do it. Since it's something I had planned all along. Unless you all really hate it, then I won't. If you have any other episode ideas for the next couple of weeks, please let me know. I'll see if I can sneak another 1 or 2 in, so I have stuff pre-recorded, just in case I'm away longer than I thought and don't have access to a room somewhere quiet, something to record, anything like that. For now, that's it. In something not Camp Cretaceous related at all, but definitely Jurassic related. Today is Wednesday, March 16th. And since it's the 3rd Wednesday of the month, that means a new episode of Beyond the Gates became available today. For those unfamiliar, Beyond the Gates is a partnership between Jurassic World, Target, and Jurassic Outpost. And Jurassic Outpost does this amazing job of making these little videos about a new exclusive Mattel toy that Target will be selling in the US. Other countries have their own retailers for them. And this month's was amazing. It is Lex and Tim with a raptor and a kitchen set from Jurassic Park Legacy Collection. It looks so beautiful. The kids even have dirty clothes and dirt on their skin and stuff. They look great. And for the first time in 29 years, Lex finally has a toy. Fans have been clamoring forever for a Lex toy. Now they finally have one. So it's great, and I feel so bad for the guys over at Outpost that images of the toy leaked like 2 days ago. Huge bummer that took some of the excitement away. I still went and I watched the video, and as always, they did a fantastic job. Great job to everybody involved over there. It is such a cool episode. And one awesome bit of information that Chris dropped at the very end of the episode that he teased us with on April 28th at Universal Studios in Hollywood, California. We're going to have some fantastic fan event called Generation Jurassic. He gave us no more information on it other than the date and where it's happening. And we should all just keep our eyes tuned and locked in on Jurassic Outpost for more details. I can't wait to find out what this is. I was already scheduled to be like 30 miles outside of Hollywood on May 1st. My wife's going to be out there on April 26th. So now I'm changing my flight. I'm going out early because I absolutely can't miss this. And I hope that I get the chance to meet some of you all out there in person. I mentioned on Twitter this morning, I'm more excited about the possibility of meeting some of you face to face, putting a real face to a name and saying hi, and honestly to say thank you to each and any one of you that, I may get the opportunity to see there. So if you have, the means, hopefully I get to see you there. Hopefully I can rearrange my schedule that I can get there. I will be so disappointed if I get there like 3 days after this thing happens. But anyway, if you've missed that, go check out Beyond the Gates. I think Jurassic Outpost and Jurassic World probably both have it up on their YouTube channels by now. If not, in the Target app and on target.com, you can definitely watch it. It's really cool. Take a look at that new set. Pre-order it if you haven't already. I'm not sure if it's sold out. A lot of these sell out within a couple of hours. But yeah, Generation Jurassic. Looking forward to it so much. I could be wrong. I know nothing about it. It sounds like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I'm going to do anything I can to get there. But anyway, that wraps up this episode of the Cretaceous Campcast. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and or listening. Again, I'm Cretaceous Dave. You could find me on Twitter at Cretaceous_Dave and find Cretaceous Media on YouTube at Media Cretaceous on Twitter. And until next time, guys, thank you so much. Stay safe, stay Jurassic, and enjoy the rest of your week. So long.